talking about autism today on Kababayan LA. Earlier, we met Kababayan Pride from Vancouver. He is an artist with autism, but was recently honored by the United Nations. And there's so many people like that. They are not living with their condition. In fact, they are striving and thriving despite their condition. And one of those is also the daughter of the author. That's our guest this afternoon on the show. But more than that, we're going to be talking to you, Leslie, as an author of a book called You Don't Need to Know That. This is the story about your daughter.
Correct.
And how you raised her with autism, and also the struggles as a parent. First, tell us a little bit of your story. I know the story is in the book, but I give you 1 minute to tell your story. Compressed. Okay.
I have chronicled 20 years of experiences in dealing with our daughter, family experiences, school experiences, every facet of living with a child with autism.
Earlier, we talked to Veli, and she talks about how in the years before, 20 years before when J.A. Was born and diagnosed with autism, there weren't a lot of resources about autism. Did you have that problem too?
That is absolutely true. And you spent so much time investigating, reading, trying to understand. The research was just barely beginning. It was very difficult to find knowledgeable doctors. Schools didn't understand yet how to really deal with the kids, and it was very tough.
And now there are so many resources, so many studies, and so many different findings saying, you know, women or moms with gestational diabetes could be a cause. Overweight moms could be a cause, or a mutated gene from the dad could be a cause. But I think at this point, more than the cause, I think you would rather get, you know, resources on how to cope with it, right?
Absolutely. And there are so many theories abounding today. The research has really sort of gone into high gear here, and we are learning more and more every day. But there's nothing definitive yet. Mm-hmm. There is absolutely nothing definitive. These are just possible, maybe, theory projections.
Right. And speaking of resources, if you are living with a child or raising a child with autism, you should get this book because it's very honest,
yes.
It's very candid, and you get a lot of tips and also very inspirational as well. You write in the book, number one issue is the dads. We talked about the mutated gene from the dad. I guess it doesn't help because in the book, we realize that there are dads that are having more difficulty dealing with a child with autism compared to the moms.
Absolutely. Many marriages suffer the stress of dealing with children with special needs, and often the marriages don't last. And my husband did have a difficult time dealing with the outbursts and the meltdowns and the perseveration and the constant repeating and so on. But we did weather those years, and we stayed together and are much stronger and happier for it.
What would you say to parents out there that are having a hard time, couples that are going through tough times in their relationship because they're dealing with a child with special needs?
I think couples really need to have time for themselves, and that sounds very cliche, but it could not be more true when you're dealing with other family issues. You must maintain that relationship with your husband where you are spending lots of time together and discussing these issues and your feelings.
I would also think that maybe find a support group with couples dealing with the same thing, and Veli talked to us about that too. She found a couple that had a son with autism as
yes.
well. We're going to be talking a little bit about that because it's not that simple. Aside from your relationship as husband and wife, the relationship of the child with autism with his or her siblings, which can also be
Absolutely.
very tricky. We're going to be talking about that when we return, though.